He didn't sound like Nashville. He didn't look like it either, but he was country, down to his last broken lyric. And now, Johnny Rodriguez is gone. A voice that once echoed from jail cells to sold-out concert halls has finally fallen silent. Johnny Rodriguez passed away at the age of insert age, closing a chapter that forever changed the sound of American country music. But this isn't just an obituary. It's a tribute to a pioneer who proved that country music could have a Spanish heartbeat. He was born on January 10, 1951, in the small town of Sabinal, Texas. At home, he spoke Spanish. At school, English, and in the dusty back streets of South Texas, he learned to sing in any language he could, because to him, music was survival. Before the record deals and fame, Johnny was just a teenager trying to find his way in a world that wasn't always kind to brown-skinned boys with a dream. At 18, he got in trouble with the law. He was arrested for stealing a goat, a wild tale that became folklore in Texas music history. But what happened next changed his life. Sitting in jail, he sang to himself to pass the time. Sad songs, lonely songs, songs his mother played on the radio. The guards stopped, his cellmates listened, and one of them told someone who told someone else. Until Tom T. Hall, country royalty, showed up. Tom heard something raw, something real. He saw past the prison bars and into the heart of a star. Within months, Johnny Rodriguez was on stage, and just like that, America had a new voice. But this wasn't just any voice. This was a voice that sang in Spanish and English. That told the truth about heartbreak, hard times, and heritage. That didn't ask for permission to belong in country music, because it already did. In 1972, his debut single, Pass Me By, If You're Only Passing Through, hit number 9 on the charts, and the industry took notice. A young Mexican-American singer singing country on country radio. It wasn't just unexpected, it was revolutionary. He followed that with a string of hits. Riding My Thumb to Mexico. You Always Come Back to Hurting Me. That's the Way Love Goes. Each one climbing the charts. Each one proving that country music was more than cowboy hats and honky-tonks. It could also be bilingual, and for the first time in mainstream country history, Spanish lyrics weren't a novelty. They were a force. Rodriguez didn't just sing songs, he painted stories of border towns and lost lovers, of second chances and silent prayers. And people listened. He wasn't a gimmick. He was the real deal. In a sea of conformity, he stood alone. And somehow, he made millions feel less alone too. By the mid-1970s, he was selling out arenas, topping charts, and appearing at the Grand Ole Opry. He even performed for President Gerald Ford at the White House. The shy kid from Sabinal was now a national treasure. But behind the scenes, the fame was never easy. As quickly as he rose, the pressure rose too. Interviews, touring, recording, repeat. It wore on him. And the industry? It didn't always know what to do with someone who didn't fit the mold, but Rodriguez kept going. He kept singing, because the music was bigger than the machine. And fans, oh, the fans, they didn't care what language he sang in. They only cared that it felt real. One woman from Laredo once wrote, "My father used to sing Pass Me By every night after work. Now that Johnny's gone, it feels like I've lost part of my father too." That's what Johnny did. He made the unspoken heard. He gave voice to love, loss, and longing in a way that needed no translation. But even legends bleed. In the 1980s, his career hit a slowdown. The hits became less frequent, and the personal struggles more visible. He battled substance abuse, faced legal issues, lost momentum in a changing industry. But he never lost that voice. Because you can lose the charts, you can lose the headlines, but when your music has lived in people's living rooms, their truck radios, their heartbreaks, you never really disappear. The 1980s weren't kind to Johnny Rodriguez. The spotlight dimmed. The songs weren't charting like they used to. Country music was shifting, chasing polished sounds, younger faces, and safer stories. And Rodriguez, he was too real, too raw, too honest for an industry that often preferred shine over soul. He battled alcohol and the weight of expectations. There were arrests. There was heartbreak. There were moments where it seemed like the man who once changed. Country music had been forgotten by it. But here's the thing about legends. They don't vanish. They pause, and then they come back when the world remembers why they mattered in the first place. In the early 90s, something began to stir. Release new music. Smaller crowds, yes, but louder applause. Not from trend chasers, but from fans who never left. Fans who still remembered the first time they heard him say, "Mi corazón," in a country love song. He played state fairs, border towns, and honky-tonks that felt more like home than arenas ever did. And every time he walked on stage, there was a silence, a reverence, like people knew they were in the presence of a survivor, a man who had lost the radio but never lost the room. Rodriguez didn't chase nostalgia. He lived it, because to him, the music was never about staying on top. It was about staying connected. He once said in a rare interview, "Fame comes and goes. But when someone tells you, your song got me through a divorce or a death, that's when you realize you've done something bigger than charts." And he had. By now, younger Latino artists had started entering country music. Names like Rick Trevino. Bands like the Mavericks. But if you ask them where it all started, they pointed to Johnny. He wasn't just an influence, he was the blueprint. Let's talk legacy. Johnny Rodriguez was the first to consistently blend Spanish into mainstream country lyrics. He didn't do it to stand out. He did it because it was who he was. He proved that culture wasn't something you had to hide to make it. You could bring it with you to Nashville, to the Opry, to the charts. And millions of Mexican-American families saw themselves in him. Not just in his voice, but in his struggle, in his survival. In 2007, he was inducted into the Texas Country Music Hall of Fame. The applause that night, it wasn't for just one man. It was for every door he kicked open, for every artist he inspired, and for every fan who felt seen because of him. And still, through all the honors, Rodriguez stayed grounded. He didn't pretend to be a saint. He never polished his flaws. He wore them because pain was part of the voice, and the voice was part of the healing. There's a story a fan once told. She saw him perform at a tiny roadhouse outside of San Antonio. No lights, no big band, just Johnny and a guitar. After the show, she approached him with tears in her eyes. "My son just passed away," she said. "Your song, Love Put a Song in My Heart, was the last thing he sang before we lost him. Thank you for being there when no one else could be." Rodriguez didn't respond with words. He just hugged her tight and didn't let go. That was Johnny. He didn't need a stadium to make a moment. He only needed one person, one story, one melody. As time passed, his voice aged, but never cracked. It carried new weight, new wisdom. And if you listen closely, you could hear not just the notes, but the years. Years of grit, years of grace, years of proving that country music had no borders. And neither did love. When news of Johnny Rodriguez's passing broke, something strange happened. It wasn't front-page drama. There were no flashy headlines, no trending hashtags trying to catch a viral wave. Instead, there was silence. A long, still breath across thousands of homes, especially in places where his music never stopped playing. Small-town Texas radio stations broke their regular programming to spin "Riding My Thumb to Mexico" one more time. And suddenly, across the South and Southwest, it felt like 1973 all over again. But this time, the voice was a memory. Tributes poured in. Country legends called him a trailblazer. Latino artists called him a door opener. Fans, they just called him the realest voice they ever heard. One tweet read, "Johnny Rodriguez didn't just sing to us, he sang for us. He carried us into country music when we didn't think we belonged." Another message, shared by a mother in Corpus Christi. "My dad taught me how to change a tire, how to ride a horse, and how to cry to Johnny Rodriguez. No PR team wrote those lines. No press release orchestrated that emotion. It was earned over decades, through truth, through time." His funeral was private, but his memory, public property. From Nashville to New Mexico, people held candlelight tributes. Bar bands played his songs with cracking voices, and mariachi groups in border towns played "Dance With Me" just one more time, like it was a hymn, because it was, too. Many Johnny wasn't just a singer. He was a soundtrack, a memory, a marker in time. And now, he's a legend, but not the kind that lives in perfect frames or sterile awards, the kind that lives in back seats, on mixtapes, in dusty vinyl records that skip just a little but still sing perfectly. His impact will never be measured in just Grammys or chart positions. It'll be measured in how many people say, "That man made me feel less alone." So what now? What happens to a legacy like Johnny's when the world keeps spinning? It stays in the hearts of fans who pass his music to their children, in every artist who sings a bilingual lyric without fear, in every dusty jukebox at a roadside diner where someone presses A12 without even needing to check the label, because they already know it's Johnny. And when they hear that voice, soft, honest, unmistakable, they don't just remember him, they relive him. So here's a question for you. What's the one Johnny Rodriguez song that takes you back to your father's truck, back to the heartbreak you never admitted, back to the time you realized music wasn't just sound, it was feeling? Share it. Say it out loud, because as long as we speak his name, he's not gone. He's just still riding his thumb to Mexico. And maybe, just maybe, he's singing in both languages up there too.